The collapse of Air Australia wasn't the only sign of economic trouble today. Job cuts by an iconic surf brand and an oil company's review of its payroll numbers added to the woe. But the government's top Treasury advisor is questioning the logic of low confidence numbers when, in his view, the Australian economic outlook is incredibly promising. Political correspondent Tom Iggulden reports from Canberra.
There's been a wave of job losses engulfing workers so far this month, and the wipeouts didn't end today.
And then the next wave hit, and I thought, this is it. This is how people die.
Iconic surf brand Billabong's the latest rider of the economic storm to suffer, slashing 400 global jobs today, 80 of them in Australia.
Which is just a factor of the challenges that we're seeing at retail, particularly in Australia and also in Europe and to a lesser extent in the USA.
And oil company Caltex is reviewing refineries in Sydney and Brisbane. 800 workers are anxiously waiting to see if their jobs will go.
That's a pretty ordinary thing to do when you know that workers and their families and their livelihoods are in jeopardy as a result of that.
With real and potential job losses piling up, the Prime Minister expressed her view about the cause.
Our economy is in days of change. These are stresses, days of stresses and strain, days of change. We are specifically saying to Australians, these are days of economic change.
But others have their view. Two major business groups put in submissions to the government today, asking for a change to industrial relations laws to decrease union power. And Tony Abbott bought into that debate too.
In some cases, difficult workplace relations situations are playing their part. But when it comes to manufacturing industry, when it comes to the transport sector, the carbon tax is a problem.
But Canberra's chief economic bureaucrat is urging calm.
It's almost as if most Australians seem to think we live in Greece. We don't. I mean, we actually have an incredibly bright future ahead of us.
And we've just seen 2 weeks in the federal parliament, the opposition talking the economy down, even though yesterday we saw a reduction in the number of Australians unemployed.
The Prime Minister visited a Canberra trade school today.
Hello, hi girls, how are we?
School funding is on the agenda for next week, with the long-awaited Gonski report due for release on Monday.
Have to deal with the compliments, but also sometimes the occasional criticisms.
There could be plenty of the latter. A new funding model would create winners and losers in the public and independent school systems.
I'll swap you.
The Greens are already pressuring the government for big changes.
I'm talking here about billions of dollars being injected into the public education system.
But with a promise of a budget surplus to keep, the government's taking a longer-term view.
That will require study and consideration and work with stakeholders. So we're looking forward to that on Monday.
But there was one sideshow the Prime Minister didn't have to deal with today. Kevin Rudd returned to Queensland,
for the coming good,
toning down this week's leadership speculation. Tom Iggulden, Late Line.